Am I the a-hole for saying I don't care if my half-siblings feel left out because it's not my mom's job to mother them? My parents were married and had me 16 female and my brother 18 male. My dad had an affair with Kate, and mom and him divorced. Ellie, 11 female, was the result of the affair, and Tommy, 9 male, was born when dad married Kate. A year later, Kate died. My dad's family rallied around my half-siblings and tried to make up for the loss of their mother. Meanwhile, my mom shared custody of me and my brother with my dad. He had asked her to include Ellie and Tom in her life after Kate died, and even told my brother and I a few times that they would be coming to mom's with us, and should be their mom now too. Mom never did take Ellie or Tom into her home. I don't even think she's ever interacted with them. When I look back at moments where everyone was present, she was always one side with her family, and Dad was another with his and my half-siblings. Ellie and Tommy, as they have gotten older, have expressed all the emotions you might when you don't have a mom, but you sometimes share a home with kids who do. They get jealous, sad, frustrated. They have even asked for us to share mom with them. They have wanted to come along when they hear mom is taking us on vacation. They have wanted us all to spend Christmas together too. All kinds of stuff. They also have just dad's side of the family, since none of Kate's wants to be in their lives. Well, we have both sets of grandparents and aunts and uncles involved in our lives. A few times over the years, Dad, or my grandma or uncle, have asked me if I don't dislike that my mom wouldn't open her heart to kids who are part of my family. I always said no because they are not her kids, and so it doesn't make sense to me that she would. My dad wanted to try and get my half-siblings' wish to come true for a Christmas, where we're all together, which would include my brother and I and our mom. Mom said no. She did not engage with him beyond her no. Ellie and Dad then tried to get me to talk mom around, and I said no, and I told them I did not want to talk her around. Ellie got upset hearing that and left. Dad and my grandparents then cornered me later and asked me how can I say that when I know Ellie and Tommy feel left out and that they crave mothering. I told them I don't care if they feel left out because it's not my mom's job to mother them, and I would never expect her to do it. And since one can't be fixed without the other thing happening, as in them feeling left out can't be fixed unless they feel like they now have a mom in my mom, then I realized it's not going to happen. They told me my mom could, and should, have love for them as her children's siblings. I told them Dad should have thought about that before he cheated on her and got another woman pregnant while he was still married to mom. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. I think the only a-holes are your father and any family member who put into those kids' heads when they are only 11 and 9 that your mother should have accepted and loved them as they were her own. I get you saying it to them, but you gotta understand that those kids have been brainwashed to believe your mother owed them something. Those kids need therapy and to be removed from your father's care because he's doing a lot of damage with his BS. I don't think either of those things will happen since my dad is the only parent they have left. Yeah, it's pretty sad that your dad is trying to absolve himself of guilt and responsibility by pushing a role onto your mom that she has no business in. I don't think he feels guilty. I'd say he doesn't see women as people, just caricatures of wife, mother, etc. That's why he doesn't understand that a woman he made a vow to, then burned and abandoned, wants nothing to do with helping him clean up the life he left her to have. In his mind, women take care of children and sad, desperate men. So now that his mistress/second wife died, he thinks his first wife should feel enough pity or compassion or whatever to take care of them all. But that's not how humans work. And until he sees her as a human with complex emotions, he will never stop trying the issue. That would require therapy, and Opie has said that probably won't happen, so this will most likely continue. Not the whole Opie. Therapy might be a good choice for you if you haven't already. This is a lot of weird and inappropriate pressure on you, and you deserve to have help navigating it. Not the whole. As much as I feel sorry for the kids who have no fault, they are the result of their father's affair. Your mom shouldn't be pressured to mother them precisely because they are the result of the affair. If your dad is so desperate for them to have mom, he should remarry. Affair or not, is wackadoo to think that your ex should somehow mother the children that you fathered with another woman. Even if they divorced amicably and then he met the mother of his other kids, it would still be a wild request. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad it's too late? My dad met his wife when I was 4. They became friends because they were single parents. Dad having lost his wife/my mom, and his wife because she had gone through a nasty divorce and it left her struggling. 2 years later, they became a couple. and started introducing both sets of kids. It was not a good transition. His wife's kids were close and wanted nothing to do with the new stepbrother. But we were often pushed to interact and I would be left on the outside. Sometimes they would run away from me and leave me behind in places. And other times they would just ignore my existence completely. It was tough. I often felt like I had nobody. Dad and his wife both knew, and I had to be told that it would be okay, but that was it. There were times her kids would tease me for having no mom, and would tell me nobody wanted me, and I should run away. I was never accepted into their sibling group, and they moved out and eventually just stopped talking to me at all. I'm 19 now, and my girlfriend and I have a 6-month-old daughter. My dad apparently did not like that they were not willing to interact with my daughter, did not want to include her, and had not told their kids about their new cousin. He told his wife it bothered him and about her being left out. They argued and he moved out. He then came to me to tell me what happened, and I told him it was too late for that. That he knew they treated me that way, but he'd rather have someone in his bed. I asked him if he really thought I'd find it amazing that he'd do that now, when he didn't do it when I needed him. I said I would never have exposed my daughter to them, so he could have not blown up his marriage. And he called me ungrateful. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. They weren't there to support you emotionally, and apparently were abusive, so extremely entitled for them to expect and demand attention. He flat out told you he chose the new wife to be in his bed over you. Now he gets to lay in the mess he made. Not the a-hole. The cynical side of my brain thinks your dad was already thinking of leaving them, and thought this was the perfect excuse to do so and win brownie points with you at the same time. I find it very doubtful that he just suddenly grew a conscience about the treatment you have received for decades. Good on you for having a spine and calling him out on his behavior. My cynical side concurs and adds that it's likely because he only really realized after the divorce that his stepchildren never really cared for him either. After they told him to GTFO because it's not their kid's grandfather after he tried to visit. Strong vibes of doing the bare minimum while expecting effusions of gratitude here. Your dad never tried to create a smooth transition towards blended family. He knew how abandoned and alone you felt. He let the situation go on because what mattered most was not being single anymore, not your well-being and feeling accepted and loved in your own home, which is basically a child's only/principal safe space. You can't go Pikachu face when the step-siblings, who were never interested in you, are still not interested in you or in your kid. And you can't go Pikachu face because you don't care that, now that you're an adult, that you don't care either about them. Your dad sounds so self-centered. I wouldn't be surprised to learn that his relationship with your stepmother was not going well, and he just decided to make it implode in a way that makes him look good and would make you gain his respect, or something. Because what was the point of moving out over an issue between grown children? Right now. But back when the relationship was new and going well, it did not matter that your step-siblings were casting you out. Now he's expecting to be hailed as a hero? Another brilliant case of fool around and find out. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not going to my sister's child-free wedding? My sister is getting married next month to my best friend. She always wanted a nice snow wedding in the cabins we used to go to when we were in school. Everything was going fine until she told me it was a child-free wedding. Now, that would be fine with my wife and I, because we would just drop off my son and daughter at my wife's parents or with their godparents. But my sister had asked them to be the ring bearer and the flower girl. Apparently, they want the kids to perform their duties at the wedding, but then not attend a reception. That means either my wife or I will have to be there with them alone in the cabin while everyone is partying it up. Oh, but wait, I'm the best man. It will be conducting the reception, so it's just going to be my wife. What about food? My mom will give my wife 20 minutes to come in, grab some plates with food and come back because the mother of the bride can't be missing for too long. So, they expect me to abandon my wife with our kids who are under the age of 7 in a tiny cabin that is not child-proof, where the source of heat is a fireplace and there is barely any cell signal. This is the day after driving for 7 hours with said kids. Not only do I think this is not a safe idea, considering it would be the middle of winter, my wife has never been to these cabins. It's not just the lack of ability to properly communicate, but also I think it's incredibly rude to invite someone to a destination wedding where they are not allowed to attend a wedding. Although my wife says she can manage, as she's really gullible sometimes and is a little bit of a people pleaser, I refuse. She's not being treated like a guest, but as the babysitter for the ring bearer and flower girl. I try to talk to my sister and the a-hole I call my best friend, who always preaches about being there for friends, loyalty and whatnot, but they're not conceding or willing to compromise. I ask if my kids could attend until the toasts, games, and food. Then all 4 of us would retire to the cabin and let them party. No. If we could go completely child-free and leave the kids behind. No. If I just attend a wedding and retire to the cabin after the wedding. No. My sister is against all of these ideas while the a-hole has taken a temporary vow of silence. So, I'm angry and said I'm not coming, which in turn began the messages and calls from everyone. My family, the groom's family, and our friends. My wife has openly said that she can manage this, but I know that's just to keep the peace. My kids are also upset, because before asking us, my sister and the a-hole asked them first to participate in the wedding, and they were really excited because they're close with both of them. With all these calls and messages, I feel I'm going crazy, and maybe I'm the a-hole instead. So, am I? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. If she wants child-free, then she does not need your kids as props. As a parent, you have the right to not attend a child-free wedding without guilt. Tell her she should hire some local children for the gig. I am so confused by the request. Aren't most child-free weddings child-free? So the ceremony goes off without a hitch. Who requires children as props for the ceremony and then ban them from the reception? If these children can be trusted with the key roles in the wedding, why not trust that they can behave for the reception? Or at least a part of it? She's not being treated like a guest, but as the babysitter for the ring bearer and a flower girl. You are an awesome husband. I like where this is headed. When it comes to Mr. A-hole and Mrs. A-hole to be, they want to bestow the honor of making you their best man. But unfortunately, that honor comes at a hefty price. In order to fulfill your duties, you'll have to alienate your family for the reception. So, of course, it's totally reasonable and absolutely 100% expected of you to tell your wife and kids to go screw themselves while you're living it up to their reception. Totally sarcasm, by the way. You asked for compromises and they told you no. You even asked to leave after the ceremony. They said no. They left you with no options but to tell them, congratulations, you are officially out of luck. If this was a test to prove to your sister and her fiancé who your loyalty was with, you passed. You showed them that your family comes first, and you won't be throwing them to the wolves while you cower to the pack. Congratulations, and a toast to Mr. and Mrs. A-hole. May they have a lonely and miserable future ahead of both of them. Not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother off when he berated my daughter for not changing her cousin's diaper? Context. I moved in with my brother after my divorce 3 months ago and brought my 18-year-old daughter with me. My brother and his girlfriend have a 9-month-old daughter, my niece. This happened this past Friday. My brother's girlfriend was on a shift. She's a nurse and my brother was in a work-from-home meeting. I was out of the house for hours while he was watching the baby via nanny cam, and apparently she needed a diaper change. But he was so busy. He texted my daughter asking if she'd go in and quickly change her cousin's diaper, but she refused. She told me that she had her reasons. 1, she doesn't feel comfortable around babies. And 2, she was already late for her friend's birthday party. Her other friend and brother were waiting on her outside. My brother insisted, but she refused, which made him cut the meeting and getting kicked out of it. My daughter was out of the house at that point. I got home and there was a huge argument. I found my brother berating my daughter for not helping with her baby cousin and doing him this small one-time favor, and now he got kicked out of his meeting. My daughter was crying, so I told my brother off and said that his daughter is his and his girlfriend's responsibility, and he shouldn't rely on my daughter for her care. He explained how it was just a one-time favor, and how he's been very supportive of us since I divorced my ex. But I told him that is not an excuse to force my daughter to do what she didn't feel comfortable with. His girlfriend got involved and called me an ungrateful a-hole and told us we have 2 weeks to move out. I tried to speak to my brother about his girlfriend's decision, but he shut me off saying I was in the wrong for telling him off, instead of holding my daughter accountable for the lack of support. Your brother is responsible for taking care of his daughter. OP is responsible for providing housing for himself and his daughter. When someone is doing you a big favor, it might be wise to reciprocate with small favors. My grandma used to say with regard to arguments with family, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Sometimes those things don't coincide. I say something similar regarding driving. Do you want to be right or do you want to be hit? Your daughter does not owe your brother childcare services. But on the flip side, your brother does not owe you and your daughter room and board. So no a-holes technically, but it's your own fault for getting kicked out. The brother felt entitled to verbally mistreat the 18-year-old niece/daughter. I object for the no a-holes ruling. Brother is 1000% the a-hole for only planning to watch his infant daughter via nanny cam and not making prior arrangements with his niece to be hands-on during his meeting. It's his responsibility to make arrangements for his infant. I would also be extremely upset if I came home to find my adult brother berating his 18-year-old niece for any reason, but especially this reason. The verbal attack would not fly with me. Not the a-hole, but it's definitely time to move out. Everyone sucks here. I mean, they both sound incredibly stressed, and I think there's more to this story than you let on, considering this argument led to them giving you 2 weeks' notice to get out. Perhaps neither of you have been helping or contributing for months, and this was an easily solvable problem that would have just helped them. They're helping you after all. I agree with everything in this reply except the judgment. Opie was the a-hole here. My wife and I both work from home, and sometimes it's really hard to get away. It was a simple favor. Nothing wrong with the ask your brother made. You and your daughter need to step up to the kindness this family's giving you. Oh wait, it's too late.